You meet a Muslim and you say Jesus is the Son of God. And a Muslim say, how can you say Jesus is the Son of God? Does God have a wife? Then you tell him, don't talk like that. He says, no. You say Jesus is the Son of God. For a man to have a son, him and his wife must sleep together. And for you to say God has a son, what you're simply saying is that God had carnal knowledge of a woman. That's why it doesn't make sense. When you say to a Muslim that Jesus is the Son of God, it doesn't make sense. Because God shouldn't have a wife.
If you go down to my
God
context, I don't talk about this thing before.
So if a Muslim now asks you that,
if you
marry,
you
can't evangelize.
At the end, you and your wife, husband, your wife define
joke, you will add another one.
Your wife can't get belly. How compass you can't say the picky belly when you get Holy Spirit? Now you put that there.
So let me answer it before I proceed. So in case you meet them after tonight, you can look at them and just be eating granite while you answer.
You're similar to what this man preached. So listen.
Why is Jesus called the Son of God? He is called the Son of God because Jesus is God who became a man to save man. So since Jesus is God compressed in mortality, Jesus is God trapped in time, Jesus is God trapped in matter.
Carry your share, sit down.
Trapped in matter.
So
when deity becomes trapped in humanity, the amalgamation of deity with humanity is called Son of God. It's not Son of God as in natural birth. It's Son of God as in amalgamation of deity with humanity. How do you prove that? John 1:12. As many as receive deity in their humanity, he gives them power to be called sons of God. So why is Jesus Son of God? Because Jesus is God who became a man. So when God became trapped in matter, that make is called Son of God. It's not like God gave birth to it's that God stepped down. God stepped down.
Because if you go down to my context,
because God couldn't have come to earth as God. He will shatter the planet. It's too much for this planet.
If you marry,
too much.
At the end, and I told him, you and your wife, husband, your wife define picking. Your wife can't get belly.
Heaven is a planet.
How compass you can't tell
is too small
belly when you get Holy Spirit?
God doesn't live in heaven.
Now you put that there. It's possible.
Why did you say that?
I don't think I asked this question before.
God doesn't live in heaven. And somebody says,
you're similar to what this man preached. So listen.
Why not? Genesis 1:1. Put it up. Can we read like a mass choir? Genesis 1:1. Can we read 1, 2, go? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So there was a day called beginning. So before that day called beginning, when God created heaven and earth, before that day, where
your share, sit down. You listen carefully so that for the wise. Things they happen.
Wherever God was, that is where God is. Because he says, I am the Lord, I change it. Am I teaching now? So now somebody says, so since God doesn't live in heaven, number one, why was heaven created? I will answer in a few minutes. But before that, then where does God really live? Well, Brother Paul gave us an idea. Brother Paul said God is the immortality that dwelleth in unapproachable light, which no man has ever seen nor will ever see. Where God dwells is unapproachable. When you look, it's light that blinds your eye, so you take away your eyes. Then somebody asked me, so then if God doesn't live in heaven, why did Jesus say pray after this manner?
Because
our Father,
if you go down to my context, I don't talk about this thing before.
But the bad thing was that the guy was angry.
When I ask people, like if you marry,
he asked me like a professor who is rebuking a student.
You and your wife, husband, your wife define picking.
I said to him,
your wife can't get belly.
Like us talk,
how compass your context the picking belly when you get Holy Spirit?
We said what we said. We took
time to think the
process.
It's possible.
So do you want me to teach?
I don't think I asked this question before.
Or what do you want? It's okay, teach me. I said, hey, that's what you should have said.
You're similar to what this man is. So listen.
Ask me humbly, because to learn you need meekness. Hey, Agaba. So why did Jesus say, pray after this manner? Our Father which art in heaven? Can I answer that? John chapter 3 verse 10. Let the Bible answer it. John
Carry your
3:10.
chair, sit down.
Jesus answered and said unto
You
him,
listen
art thou a
carefully so that
master
for
of
the- maybe for the
Israel,
wise.
and knowest not these things? Nicodemus, he was
Things
talking
they
to Nick
happen,
at
oh.
night. Next
And
verse.
I just send the
Verily,
message
verily, I
of say
say
one
unto
day,
thee, we speak that we do know,
some
and testify
idiotic
that we have seen,
That
and
we
you
all
receive
preaching
not
about
our
that church, I
words.
believe, say,
Next
hungry
verse.
lion.
If
Your
I
enter
have
and the
told
Russian.
you of earthly
Listen
things
carefully.
like born again, and you believe not, how shall you believe if I tell you of heavenly things? Now tomorrow morning we shall be talking heavenly things. To be very brutal here in the morning, 9 o'clock.
Just open your ear
Now.
and you listen.
So Jesus is saying, if I'm using born again,
Listen to
which
my
are earthly
preaching.
illustrations, and you're confused, supposing I use Zamunku Tulutu. Are you still here? Next verse. Just follow. Next
Open your
verse.
ear, listen.
Ikamanaga. And no man had ascended up to heaven. No man. Yesterday we
Because
said to
if you go down
Elijah
to my
didn't go to heaven.
context,
Jesus is
I don't talk
establishing
about
it.
this thing
No
before.
man had ascended up to heaven.
When I
But
ask
he
people,
that
say,
came
if
down
you
from
marry,
heaven. Now I need your intelligence
at
to
the
come
end,
alive now, because
you and
something
your
is
wife,
about to
husband,
break
your
out
wife
if you follow.
define picking.
Even
Your wife could get
the
belly.
Son of
How
Man,
compass you could
which
say the
is
pikin belly when
in
you get
heaven.
Holy Spirit?
He didn't say
Now
the
you
Son
put
of
that
Man,
there.
which was.
Impossible.
Which was.
I don't
He
think
said
ask
the
this
Son of
question
Man,
before.
which is. That means even though I am with you here now,
Because
I
they
am still
similar
in
to what
heaven.
this man they preach. So listen.
Meaning I operate dual citizenship. So meaning when the Jesus here said, pray our Father in heaven, he was saying pray to me. But you couldn't tell them pray to me, because if you had told them pray to me, they will kill him. And he doesn't want to die before his time. So he said, just pray to our Father in heaven.
Carry your share.
Am I preaching? If you understand the shout, I hear.
Me for the wise.
Now, back to
Things they
Corinthians,
happen,
back to Corinthians, back to
And I don't
Corinthians.
think
First
the
Corinthians
message
chapter
of say
1.
one
For the
day-
Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek
Some
after
idiocy-
wisdom. Next verse. Keep it
Because
again.
they all
But we
preach
preach.
now, but that church, I believe, say,
We
hungry
preach.
lion.
Shout
You
it like you
enter
know what
and
you're
the
talking. We
Russian.
preach
Listen carefully.
unto the Christ crucified. We preach Christ. The power is in the cross.
I get as this man they do.
Unto the
You
Jews,
hear me, you listen.
a stumbling block,
Fully. Listen
the
to
cross.
man preaching.
and unto the Greeks, foolishness. Why is the cross a stumbling block to a Jewish man? Because the cross was an abomination.
Open your ear,
The
listen
only
now.
people you put on the cross are people who are to serve capital punishment.
Because
These
if
are
you go down to my
criminals
context,
that are
I
unrepentant.
don't talk about this thing before.
When a criminal is
When I
unrepentant
did
and a
ask
disaster
people,
to the
say, if
society,
you marry,
the only way they used to judge
at
him in
the
Israel
end,
was cross.
you and your wife, husband, your wife define
Deuteronomy
pikin.
21,
Your wife could
22.
get belly.
Let me show you that.
How compass your
Deuteronomy
context say the
21,
belly when you
22.
get Holy Spirit?
Watch. This was the law of Moses.
Now you put that
Deuteronomy
there.
21,
Impossible.
22. Bless your heart on the
I don't think
computer.
answer this question
And if
before.
a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and
Because
he
it's
be to be
similar
put to
to this man
death,
they preach, so
and
listen.
thou hang him on a tree. Next verse. His body shall not remain all night upon that tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. So when they brought
your
Jesus
share,
to
sit
Pilate,
down.
Pilate said,
You
gentlemen,
listen
do you know what it means to
carefully so that for the-
crucify
maybe
a
for the
man?
wise.
This man, as far as I've done investigation,
Things they
I've not
happen,
seen
oh.
anything wrong in him.
And I don't say
Okay, wait.
send the message
Should
that
I
say
release
one day-
Barabbas? Because Barabbas was a notorious
So,
criminal.
guilty.
Should I release
But
Barabbas
the Lord
so
preached
this
now
man
with
can go
that
free?
church,
They
he
say, no.
hungry lion.
Instead, give
So
us
no enter
Barabbas.
under your shop.
Let him be stealing from us,
Listen carefully.
but kill this man. Why must they kill him? What has he done? He healed your sick.
This
He gave eyes to the blind.
this man
He has never broken a law.
Just open
When
your
they
mouth
stop him
and
to pay tax, he paid tax.
fully.
He's not a criminal.
Preaching.
But in his mission was to pay sin for criminals. So when they were condemning him, they didn't know what they were doing.
Open your ear, listen. Oh.
That's what Corinthians will say, had the princes of this world known, they would
Because
not have
if you
crucified
go
the
down
Lord
to
of
my
glory. That means
context,
they were killing
I don't
Jesus
talk
without
about this
knowing
thing
why.
before. When
If
I
they knew, they wouldn't
ask
have
people,
killed him.
say, if you
They will have given
marry,
him protection
at
and
the
kept him alive.
end,
And there will be
you
no
and your
salvation.
wife, husband, your wife
That
will
is why
find
in the
pikin.
wisdom of God,
Your wife
he
can't
turned the
get
cross
belly.
to be foolishness
How
to the
come person
wise.
you can't say the pikin belly when you get no
I don't know if I'm
spirit?
teaching here. So now, why
Like
is
put
the
am
cross
there.
a stumbling block to the Jew?
Impossible.
A man that dies on the
I don't
cross
think
is a
asked this
criminal.
question
He
before.
cannot be a savior. He can't be a savior. How can a man who
You're
died
the
on the cross
similar
how can
to
he come and
this
preach
man
to me
they
that this
preach
guy
to?
who died the
Listen.
other day on a cross where only capital punishment is given to criminals that are unrepentant? That's why he died. Then you now come and tell me he's my savior? It doesn't make sense. My mind can't take it. That's the Jewish man. Then to the Greek, to tell them that the cross paid for your sin does not make intellectual sense. To the Jews,
Carry your chair,
foolishness.
sit down.
To the Greek,
May you listen
stumbling block.
carefully so that
But
for the
unto
me
us
for the
that are
wise.
saved, Christ, the
Things they
wisdom
happen, oh.
and the power of
I
God.
just send the message or say one
Somebody
day.
shout, I hear you. So the
Some
message of the
doubting-
cross, therefore, is the message of his death, his burial, and his resurrection. Now listen carefully.
Listen
That
carefully.
death was not his death. That death was my death. That burial was not his burial. That burial was my burial. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our